Prabhupada. So we're on. We're now being recorded. Hare Krishna. We're being recorded. So let's just check in the chat. Something's in the chat. Okay. So we're on, while I'm just bringing it up, some of you may have a Bhagavad Gita there. We're on chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge, text 35. Text 34 was quite important in the last session. So we spent a whole hour on text 34, Tatvidi Pranipadena, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. So now text 35 speaks about the results of transcendental knowledge. So I'm going to share my screen now so you can see the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, we can, here's someone typing away. Okay, here comes Navagaya. Okay, so forgive the font's got a bit crazed. You see on the one of, but just ignore this section. Well, you couldn't read it if you tried. All right, so okay, so the usual format. The first most important thing is Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Bhastai Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachaline Nivasisha Sunyavadi Vashtatara Sitarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Yeah, so the usual format, everyone's welcome. You're more than welcome to ask questions or give some comments. So we like to try and create a discussion amongst ourselves. I'm trying my best not to play the role of the teacher as such. All of you are devotees and you can share a lot as well. So I'm learning from yourselves as well. So any points you want to make, any comments upon what we read, then you're more than welcome. You can either do that just by unmuting and could say shouting out, or you can put in the what do you call it, in the chat box. Yeah, there's two methods we have. Or you can raise your hand. All right. So text 35, chapter 4, text 35. We just ask each devote or each of you or anyone can read and read the verse in the purple. And then, okay, Mavalabangalatika, you can start us off and let's see where we go in today's discussion on these sacred words of Krishna. Yes, Hare Krishna, go ahead.
Oh, it's 4:35.
4:35, yeah. Did I? Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yatkanatva punamoham.
Yeah, okay. Yashnatva panarmoham evam yasyasi pandava yana bhutani asesani draksyasi atmani atomayi. Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion, for by this knowledge you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, that they are mine. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The result of receiving knowledge from a self-realized soul, or one who knows things as they are, is learning that all living beings are parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. The sense of an existence separate from Krishna is called Maya, ma, not, ya, this. Some think that we have nothing to do with Krishna, that Krishna is only a great historical personality, and that the Absolute is the impersonal Brahman. Factually, it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, this impersonal Brahman is the personal effulgence of Krishna. Krishna is as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the cause of everything. In the Brahma Samhita, it is clearly stated that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes. Even the millions of incarnations are only his different expansions. Similarly, the living entities are also expansions of Krishna. The Mayavadi philosophers wrongly think that Krishna loses his own separate existence in his many expansions. This thought is material in nature. There's some talking.
Yeah, 1 second. Yeah,
oh, is
1
that
second.
you? Is it?
Yeah,
No
that's Yeah, there's not much I can do. This.
No,
Yeah.
no problem.
Go on.
Even the millions of incarnations are only his different expansions. Similarly, the living entities are also expansions of Krishna. The Mayavadi philosophers wrongly think that Krishna loses his own separate existence in his many expansions. This thought is material in nature. We have experience in the material world that a thing, when fragmentally distributed, loses its own original identity. But the Mayavadi philosophers fail to understand that absolute means that 1 plus 1 is equal to 1, and that 1 minus 1 is also equal to 1. This is the case in the absolute world. For want of sufficient knowledge in the absolute science, we are now covered with illusion, and therefore we think that we are separate from Krishna. Although we are separated parts of Krishna, we are nevertheless not different from him. The bodily difference of the living entities is Maya, or not actual fact. We are all meant to satisfy Krishna. By Maya alone, Arjuna thought that the temporary bodily relationship with his kinsmen was more important than his eternal spiritual relationship with Krishna. The whole teaching of the Gita is targeted toward this end, that a living being, as Krishna's eternal servitor, cannot be separated from Krishna. And his sense of being an identity apart from Krishna is called Maya. The living entities, as separate parts and parcels of the Supreme, have a purpose to fulfill. Having forgotten that purpose since time immemorial, they are situated in different bodies as men, animals, demigods, etc. Such bodily differences arise from forgetfulness of the transcendental service of the Lord. But when one is engaged in transcendental service through Krishna consciousness, one becomes at once liberated from this illusion. One can acquire such pure knowledge only from the bona fide spiritual master, and thereby avoid the delusion that the living entity is equal to Krishna. Perfect knowledge is that the Supreme Soul, Krishna, is the supreme shelter for all living entities, and giving up such shelter, the living entities are deluded by the material energy, imagining themselves to have a separate identity. Thus, under different standards of material identity, they become forgetful of Krishna. When, however, such deluded living entities become situated in Krishna consciousness, it is to be understood that they are on the path of liberation, as confirmed in the Bhagavatam 2.10.6. Muktir hitvam rupam swarupena vyav astita. Liberation means to be situated in one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor of Krishna, Krishna consciousness.
Okay, thank you. So that same font, it looks like is here. Yeah, the Sanskrit. So Hare Krishna. So thank you. Any specific questions or comments?
Madhu Mangal is waiting to be let in. He's like knocking on the door.
Okay. Why can't I see him here? Why can't I see him? 1 second. I can't see.
He's probably on the Sankalpa community.
Yeah.
I'll send him the link. I'll ask where he is.
Yeah, I think he's knocking on the wrong door.
Yeah.
Oh, that's. Yeah, otherwise I would see him here. Okay, anyway, any specific comments or questions here? This is, this, one second. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Sorry about that. I had to get just back. Yeah. So there's one of our senior devotees, one of our Kesha Bharati Maharaj. He's a sannyasi. He's a Prabhupada. He's a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And he quotes this verse practically every time he speaks on Krishna consciousness. And he very much speaks from a point of realization. So, in other words, this is not academic knowledge. So, transcendental knowledge, it's something that is realized. It's given from a self-realized soul, as it's mentioned here, but it's the vision that you have upon inquiring from and serving a spiritual master. Yeah, you actually your vision of the world changes, and specifically for Arjuna, he this here what for Arjuna, he is in, or he is bewildered because previous to this point, or he is not seeing from a self-realized point of view, he is seeing from the bodily concept of life. So the idea is that this knowledge, he will see that the Bhishma, Drona, Acharya, and others, they are all soul and cannot be killed. Yeah. So, and all parts and parcels of Krishna. So, this is quite the profound knowledge, and it's not of an academic type. Although we can read this knowledge and we can apply it and try to understand it, and we can act in such a way, we can try and see everyone equally and as part and parcel of Krishna. And that's good. But actually, this knowledge is something, because it's very confidential and it's very sacred knowledge. And it's something that Krishna gifts to someone's practicing bhakti or someone's practicing devotional service. So this is what they see. That one thing is they never fall again into such illusions. So in other words, Arjuna will never fall again into the bodily concept of life. We see that all living entities are parts and parcels of the Supreme. Or in other words, that they are mine. There's something else I was going to mention, but any questions upon that? Anyone have any trouble seeing everyone as a spirit soul?
I think I just had one observation to
Yes,
share.
please. Yes, please.
It's like, so,
Thank you.
So like, it's easier, I find it practically, I find that easier to apply, like when it's, animals and that sort of,
I understand.
a cat or a dog or an ant. But when you're actually in those familial or and with human beings, because you have relationships with them in a I think you can have a relationship with an animal in the sense that if you have pets, that's more paternal, so maybe it's easier to have a different different kind of a outlook on them. But when it's like, say, your siblings or your friends or just other relationships, because we can all be affected by the modes, that can be very difficult to rise above all the time and to see them in that light of that the Lord's living entities. Of course, we know they are intellectually, but practically to apply that is not always so easy. So,
very good point. I think it's because there's sometimes where we're quite, how we can say, contemplative, and we're kind of observing. We've studied Bhagavad Gita, and we've heard about this principle, dehinosmin yata dehe, that we are not this body. And as you're saying, sometimes we can observe that, and it's very nice to do. As you mentioned, we may be observing the different species of life, and we look at them with a sense of wonder with this knowledge. Like the other day, I was looking at an insect and I was trying to understand that he's a soul, and he's a jiva. And I was somewhere else and I was, But then when we're actually, I think I'm just repeating back what you're saying is a very good point. But then when we're actually kind of, when we're actually engaged in life and exchanging with people, and reacting to particular emotions or particular person's conditioned nature, then this knowledge it can be easily forgotten. It can be easily looked over and easily forgotten, as you're mentioning. So that's why Srila Prabhupada, I don't know how many times Prabhupada would remind us and is reminding us these 5 words, we are not these bodies. Again, he's repeated for some, too often repeated, but it's repeated reminder that we are not these bodies. But yeah, so perhaps other devotees can also have that experience when we're interacting, when we're at work. We can easily forget. That's why it's good to each day to expose ourselves to this transcendental knowledge. But someone on a very advanced platform, then they will always see persons. Now, it's not exactly that when an advanced devotee, it's not exactly that they seeing a soul within a body. It's quite subtle. They don't even fully, it's not within their mind that they are seeing just bodies and a soul, but they spontaneously interact with people with the or they spontaneously interact with people in a very could say in a very equal way. They are not, what's the word? They are not it's not the word racist. What's another word? A more discriminating. Yeah, they do not make any discrimination because they're just interacting with people based on their spiritual realization of Krishna. So they are not, so they can interact with so many people coming from different backgrounds and different conditioning, but they always act kind. They always act compassionately towards them. And that's the experience that that devotees had when they met Srila Prabhupada. They had that experience that Srila Prabhupada really was their well-wisher, as Prabhupada would often sign his letters, your ever well-wisher, because he wasn't seeing them from the bodily platform. Yeah, he was seeing them from a spiritual platform, but in a spontaneous way. You understand what I mean? In a spontaneous way, it was within his heart. So therefore, he would naturally relate to people as servants of Krishna. So he'd feel very compassionate towards them. Yeah. But anyone else, any other comments on this? Thank you. Good, nice point, Madhavi. Yeah. We have to keep reminding ourselves of this point.
Yeah, I was just thinking that
Yeah.
it says, having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. But I mean, it's a fact that some devotees, even receiving this knowledge and apparently understanding it, still fall into illusion.
Yeah. So there's
So
good point.
There?
Yeah. Anybody else can give an answer to Mother Lavanga's question? I have something in mind, but let's see what other devotees might say. So she's asking, we see that some people, some say devotees, they act on this spiritual principle and they seem to understand this point, but then somewhere down the line, they may stop acting according to this principle and again act according to bodily concept of life. But here it says they never again fall into such illusion.
Oh, Prabhu, can I just say something?
Yes, Nitai Mat, isn't it? Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to add this before Labanga's question.
Yeah.
I thought we although we know Lord is supreme, but we tend to have our Ishwar Bhav and
we tend to have a controlling Baba.
Control. Controlling.
Okay.
And so that can easily forget us to remember the supremacy of the Lord. So that can be the reason, and where we will be landing in trouble. Although we think we are practicing we may not practicing as it is really prescribed. It's like taking a medicine the way we want, whimsically. So it
Yeah,
could be
perhaps we
yeah,
don't take the medicine according
at
to the
all.
instructions of the
Instruction.
doctor. So
Yeah.
therefore we don't get the. So I think you're saying more or less it may be that we're not following the process of bhakti, or we may be we may succumb to our conditioned nature. So I
And
think
also,
you go.
Prabhu, one more thing I just wanted to mention. And also, Srila Prabhupada always says, always be afraid of Maya. Always think that you will be targeted. And it doesn't mean that you can think, oh, Krishna will never protect us. It's not the way. But always you try your best to come out of, you may be in a difficult situation, but still have that real faith. There should be a reason behind like that. I don't know. Said correctly.
Yeah, very good points. Yeah, very good point. But here, basically, what's being described here, there's different levels of God realization. There's what's known as a Uttama, or there's the highest level of realization. Then there's a Madhyama. Some of you have heard these terms. And then there's a Kanishta. So the definition given of a Uttama, which is the highest, is in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 11th canto. It describes that this is the knowledge of a Uttama, someone who's situated in a high level of God consciousness. That they always see everyone as being parts and parcels of the Supreme, or they see the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna situated in everyone's heart, and they know that everyone is part and parcel of Krishna, and everything is eternally situated within the Lord. So at this level of God consciousness, that is one always sees, like, again, we give the example of Srila Prabhupada. But then you have the Madhyama Adhikari and definitely the Kanishta Adhikari. So even at a platform of Madhyama, then one will have insights and inspiration into this vision. But because one may not be, at least at the stage of Madhyama, one is more steady. And definitely a Kanishta is highly unlikely. But so that's why. So this is the answer to the question, Mavlavanga, is that this is describing someone who's very advanced. Yeah, they never again fall into such illusion. Yeah, that means they're beyond the stage of Nishta. Yeah, minimum Nishta, and they're advanced souls. So we may not be at that level. So sometimes we experience or we're inspired by this type of vision. But sometimes we may forget, as you said, and as Nimai Mata mentioned as well, we may be overcome by our conditioned nature, or we may not be following the process of Krishna consciousness as we was before. So therefore, our knowledge gets covered. Yeah. Does that help, Mother Lavanga? Or anything else upon that?
No, that's great. Thanks.
Yeah. So anybody else on this, any points from this purport before we might move on? Prabhupada speaks, as he often does, about the Mayavad philosophy.
Yeah, but regarding Mayavad philosophy, like the Mayavadis see everything is one. They see everything as spiritual, or
yeah, well, their misconception is that, I think Prabhupada mentions here, the example is he mentions we have experience in the material world that the thing, when fragmentally distributed, loses its own original identity. So their so-called, or their theory, is that we are just like a piece of paper. We mentioned this before, I'm pretty sure. If you divide it up into different pieces, then it loses its original identity as a piece of paper. So God has manifest in all the jivas. He has no separate existence. We are all God, collectively together. Yeah. This is
So
my
it's kind of, it's got no meaning at all. It's totally
not
insane.
not no, it has no meaning, not in
So
reality.
then they believe that there doesn't exist God. God doesn't have a personality.
Yeah, well, there's different strains and different types of the what's called Mayavad philosophy, but the classic one is that the concept of form, even Krishna's form, and the concept of karma or activity, is all illusion. Because all the duality, because all duality is illusion. There is only a oneness. So to have any concept of anything or any duality within that oneness is all part of Maya. So Prabhupada here says, in the Brahma Samhita is clearly stated that Krishna is the supreme personality of God, they're the cause of all causes. Even the millions of incarnations are only his different expansions. Similarly, the living entities are also expansions of Krishna, but the Mayavad philosopher wrongly thinks that Krishna loses his own separate existence in his many expansions. That's what we just explained. This fault is material in nature. As you mentioned, it doesn't actually, it's material in nature. They're not actually seeing spiritually. And then we have experienced in the material world that the thing, when fragmentally distributed, loses its own original identity. But the Mayavad philosophers fail to understand that absolute means that 1 + 1 is equal to 1, and 1 - 1 is equal to 1. So, in other words, no matter how many expansions manifest from Krishna, he remains the supreme, or he remains the complete whole. Yeah. Yes. So we see ourselves as the learned soul sees everyone as parts and parcels of Krishna, but not Krishna, but not God, as he says here. Although we are separated parts of Krishna, we are nevertheless non-different from him in quality, but not in quantity. Yeah. And then
Can I add
Prabhupada,
something?
please, yes, go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So then it's mean if we were thinking as Mayavadi philosophers, or if we were Mayavadi philosophers, then it's mean that we will not have a personality, and we would not be a soul, and then we would be the whole, isn't it? Like,
yeah, I mean, that's their idea, is that presently we are covered by Maya, so we think we have an identity or a personality, but when we become advanced, we will realize there is no distinction between you and me, and yeah, and we all become one.
but how can be that possible when you are there and I'm here, and you like
Yeah.
something, I like something?
Well, you can ask that question to a Mayavadi next time you meet one. Yeah. Yeah. And Prabhupada speaks here about my interesting here. Where is here? I'm just scrolling around here. You see on the computer. The sense of existence separate from Krishna is called Maya. Yeah. So the Prabhupada's quoting from the Chatur Sloki of the Srimad Bhagavatam here. I was reading these verses just recently. So Maya is to see is that which is not. So if you see anything as being, or if you're viewing the world, and what you're viewing doesn't infuse you with a sense of appreciation for God, then that's Maya. If you're interacting in the world and you're interacting with no sense of God or Krishna, that is Maya, because actually Krishna is there. Yeah. Krishna is moving everyone, and everyone is part and parcels of him. So someone who's self-realized, when they see or when they see society or things or people, it gives them a sense of wonder and appreciation of God or Krishna. So they don't look towards the world as a sense to try and enjoy or lord it over. they see the world as being, in one sense, non-different from Krishna. So to see otherwise, to see something, the world for one's own enjoyment, or to so-called not see Krishna, that means you're in illusion, because Krishna is situated everywhere, and it's his energies that are moving everyone and is sustaining everything. So so the natural consequences of not seeing that is that you become a materialist, and you want to try and enjoy, or you deny that God exists, although he is everywhere. But actually it doesn't exist. That's why it said the sense of existence separate from Krishna is called Maya, that which is not. That's Maya. It means you're seeing the world.
That. Could you try again?
Oh, didn't get that. Could you try again? Sorry,
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
I don't know what is it. Hare Krishna.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, that's Siri's saying. I don't know. I pressed the wrong button here. Now Siri's coming up. Anyway, any comments or questions on that? Maya, yeah. Something to perhaps deeply think about. Yeah. So, but that changes when one approaches a spiritual master, inquires from him, and follows spiritual life. Then gradually, one actually comes to real knowledge, which is gifted by Krishna. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
Srila
Krishna.
Prabhupada-
Yes.
Srila Prabhupada was always saying, be afraid of Maya. And your problem starts if you're not afraid of Maya. So that means we should always be vigilant. It's not that we are concentrating on Maya, but we should be vigilant. Maya means what? There is no Krishna. That means it's Maya. Is that right, Prabhu?
Yeah. So we should always. It doesn't mean we walk around like someone scared.
No. Oh,
Be
yeah.
pretty scared. No, it just it means because it's easily forgotten. We are very small, and this material world is very big, and the illusion is very thick. So it's easy to be misled. It may be easy to forget. So that's why devotees always pray, "My Lord, please not let me forget that I am your part and parcel. Please not let me forget that this world is yours." So this should be a kind of more or less, kind of not to the point of paranoia, but what you're saying is right, but to a constant theme as we move in this world, that we don't want to forget you, because everyone else has forgotten Krishna. So we can easily also forget Krishna. Yeah, and this especially the material world, it is the material manifestation of the world is to make you forget Krishna. So, for instance, so I'm going on a bit here, but in the past, then all entertainment, all music, etc., all cultural, all plays and all culture was all based on God, on a God consciousness, and all forms of entertainment were saturated with God, whatever that may be within the Christian ethic or whatever. Right, it was all theistic. But now, practically speaking, the concept of God is not even spoken about or mentioned in a lot of modern kind of culture, entertainment, etc. Yeah, so it's easy for one to become misled. So so I'm going a long way around to your comment, Nemo Mata, but yes, correct. We should always realize our smallness, and always have this underlying prayer to Krishna that we not forget him in any time, place, or circumstance, because it's easily done because we are so small. Okay,
You know what? Sorry,
please, yeah.
I was thinking that, like Prabhupada said, we should be devotees are not afraid of Maya. It's to basically, Prabhupada, to me, my understanding is that we have to make sure that our sadhana is so good that,
Yeah,
because Maya creeping, that's basically what Prabhupada is kind of teaching us, that you should
yeah,
really protect your sadhana, When sadhana says the Maya is not going to come in,
yeah. There's a prayer by Prahlad Maharaj, and he
Yes.
prays that, my dear Lord, I am, because he says, I am never afraid of Maya, he says. I'm never afraid of Maya because I'm always absorbed in singing the glories of your unlimited, wonderful pastimes.
Mm.
So therefore, there's a clue there of how to always be Krishna conscious, to always be engaged in Sankirtan, in a glorifying Krishna.
So like when Nitam was saying like, oh, okay, we have to like think about Maya, and be careful about Maya. No, we have
Which
to
is true.
change it. Yeah, we have to change it to always thinking about Krishna. Then Maya is not
Yeah.
going to come in.
Yeah, that's the
always-
natural, organic way. But still, you find devotees will, because of humility, like even Prabhupada, there's that famous incident was often quoted, where a devotee asked Prabhupada what he was praying to the deities for.
Mm.
And Prabhupada famously said, I'm praying that I not fall into illusion, or words to those effect. So yes, no doubt, devotee, that is the way to be absorbed in Krishna, to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness. But out of a natural humility, a devotee will also have this aspect as well, will always be in a prayerful mood of not falling down or not being, of forgetting Krishna.
Prabhu, I just wanted to ask you a question with this Mataji, Chandoli Mataji mentioned about state of Prahlad Maharaj. He is a Uttama Bhakta. We are sadhakas. So, although we may want to pray like that, but how much?
Yeah, I
much we are
mean,
qualified?
I mean, he's an Uttam Bhakta, but he's teaching us Madhyamas and Kanishtas how to think.
Yeah, we
He's
could.
preaching
Yeah,
to
we
us. So what he is doing,
can.
or what he's saying, is as a lesson for us that we should always be absorbed in Krishna's glories. And it's possible for us as well. Yeah.
Devotees come down to the Madhyam platform to preach to us, to teach us.
Yeah. So that's a point, point is that, it's not, oh yeah, he's autumn, so it doesn't apply to me. No, he's telling you what he's teaching, how to be Krishna conscious. Yeah. All right.
Okay,
Let's move on another verse. For Mother Gaia has a hand up. I presume it's to read. Are you still there, Mother Gaia?
I am here. Yes.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Which
Go
verse
ahead.
are we reading?
36. Yes.
Okay. Api chedasi papebhya sarvebhya papakritama sarvam jnana plaveneva vrijanam santarishyasi. Translation. Even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. Purport. Proper understanding of one's constitutional position in relationship to Krishna is so nice that it can at once lift one from the struggle for existence which goes on in the ocean of nescience. This material world is sometimes regarded as an ocean of nescience and sometimes as a blazing forest. In the ocean, however, expert as swimmer one may be, the struggle for existence is very severe. If someone comes forward and lifts the struggling swimmer from the ocean, he is the greatest savior. Perfect knowledge, received from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the path of liberation. The boat of Krishna consciousness is very simple, but at the same time, the most sublime.
Yes, thank you. Hare Krishna. So, any comments or questions on this, specifically here, this verse? I always bring up the point. So just consider this the most sinful of all sinners. So that's pretty intense, isn't it? You think of all the horrible, could say, impious things that's going on. So the person, the worst of everyone, the worst of all of them, the most unmentionable things, if they're situated, it nicely described the boat of if they're situated in transcendental knowledge, as it's described here, they can cross over the ocean of miseries. Yeah, so very powerful. Yeah. So a lot of people coming in and out, I guess, just letting a few people in again. Any questions here? This is the, again, the results of transcendental knowledge. You see with a spiritual vision, you assimilate spiritual knowledge where you become free of lamentation in all situations. Yeah, this is the effect of transcendental knowledge. In all situations, you become free of lamentation. And also another result is given here. Yeah, no matter what your past is, no matter what you have done or not done, you will be able to cross this great ocean, as we just described. This great ocean of suffering. Yeah, this great struggle. Prabhupada says it's very severe. What's that verse? Well-known verse. Turatyaya, very difficult to overcome. Devi Esha.
Is it Apitya
Gunamayi. No, Devi Esha Gunamayi Mama Maya. Turatyaya Mam Eve Papadyante Mayam Itam Tarantite. So Turatyaya means very difficult. Very difficult to cross. Yeah. The ocean of nations. It's like an ocean. There's an ocean of nectar, isn't there? You heard of these in the Srimad Bhagavatam? There's the ocean of sweet rice somewhere. There's the ocean of rosewater. And there's the ocean of nations. And guess which ocean we are in? The ocean of nations. We're in the material world. And it's quite intense because we've been struggling here not just for one birth, but for countless births. We've been swimming around in this ocean, trying to find happiness in the bodily concept of life. And sometimes sometimes we may have been in the heavenly planets, then at some point we get thrown down again into the earthly realms. Then because of bad association, we then take birth in animal species. And for some may be entangled in really sinful activities. So they take birth in abominable species of life, snakes, cockroaches. And then by the laws of nature, we may surface again to the human form of life. And for the first, for the first half of our life, we act piously. Then again, we become entangled. And again, we become sinful. And again, we lose the human form of life for another 100 births. Then again, we come to the surface in the human form of life. And we may become pious. We may become religious. But then again, we may, anyway, you get the point. But through this transcendental knowledge, we can cross over this ocean. Anyone can give an example that's often given in classes. It's an example coming from, there's one verse that describes the calf of a hoof print. I'll give that as a clue. Samasritya ye pada palava mahat punya yasomurari vivambudi vatsa padam yap vipadam natesham. Got a few words missed there. Anyone know the example given that's given as a water contained in a calf's hoof print? I'm putting you all on the spot here. See, I can ask questions as well. I have to ask you questions.
No, you're the teacher.
No, you're my teachers.
No.
For one who has taken shelter of Krishna, who is known as Murari, then this ocean
In essence,
of
it's
material,
easy.
yes, this ocean, which is like this unlimited ocean, one can easily step over it as one steps over a puddle that's contained in a calf's footprint. So you've
means that it's so little. You, if you take surrender to Krishna, you can cross over because it's so small.
Yeah.
Krishna is so small.
And I think sometimes as devotees, we may become a little bit, what's the word, apathetic, or we may not realize our position. In other words, we're following Krishna consciousness. That is extraordinary, actually, to be following Krishna consciousness, to be chanting Krishna's holy name, to be hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, to be associating with devotees. That means you're on the boat, and that's really extraordinary. Yeah. And our life, so sometimes we hear devotees go through difficulties, but at least we have a sense of shelter and we can experience that shelter. Non-devotees and devotees have to suffer the threefold miseries. This is the nature of this material world. But we have the sublime shelter of Krishna. So we can steady ourselves and we can feel some sense of relief. But imagine for persons who are going through what we may be going through, and they have no sense of shelter. There is no one that can give them shelter. They may be in severe reversals, but they have no concept of Krishna. Now, such persons, if they're pious, then they will come to Krishna. But just think of the persons who are probably lacking piety. They have nowhere to turn. No one's going to give them shelter. Not their parents. Ultimately, they may give them some type of relief, but they're not going to give them transcendental knowledge. So I'm just trying to encourage ourselves that we are on the boat. Now we've got to stay on the boat. That's the thing. Don't jump off the boat. Stay on the boat. Anyone seen that wonderful picture that one devotee artist has drawn of there's the Krishna Conscious Society, and it's Prabhupada's at the helm. It's pictured as a boat, and Prabhupada's at the helm, and there's a verse actually describes also that the wind is the blowing, the Krishna's instructions is like blowing the boat, and there's devotees pulling people up, So anyway, we're on the, let's try to stay on a boat, over this terrible ocean, I'm just looking at the time. We've got 4 minutes left. Any comments or questions on this?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Radhika, please, yes.
Yeah. So can I say something about this? Like,
please do. Yes.
There is a saying that in different language, and it's like Manusha Janma Paiya.
Radha Krishna na bhajiya. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, Harinam na jopila, Janiya Shuniya Gorol Bishpan Korilo. That means like the soul, after several bodies, they got this human form of body, and only this body can, attain Krishna and achieve Krishna. So if we misuse this opportunity, this is a bumper kind of opportunity for us. If we misuse this opportunity, then we have to wait and again to get the human form of body.
Mm.
And so I think all the souls, all the other, all the souls, when they are not in human body, they knows that we have to attain Krishna. But as soon as we get this human form, we forget, because all these material attractions, and we indulge, having pleasure from this material world.
So-called pleasure, yeah. Mm.
So I think we should never forget Krishna. I heard that if we don't have Radharani's and Krishna's blessings or mercy, we cannot get to Krishna, because we always pray to other demigods and asking for material gains and prosperity. But only, I think, Krishna devotees are the only one who are the happiest, because they never ask anything from Krishna except Krishna.
Yeah, very nice. So you're quoting from Nitai Pada Kamala, that beginning, you was quoting from a bhajan, huh?
Sorry?
Radha Krishna, you was quoting from the bhajan, Nitai Pada Kamala?
I'm not sure, because I heard it somewhere.
Okay, yeah. It's very similar to what you were saying. One of our acharyas, Nortam Dastakor, I think it is. He says, and he prays to Krishna in a way that you was explaining, that actually I've just drunken poison. Actually, I have turned away from Krishna, and I've embraced the cycle of birth and death. Yeah. So very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for. Yeah.
And whatever activity we are doing, we have to consciously remind us that this activity or this act is not taking us away from Krishna. That's the way we consciously reminding Krishna and getting more closer to him.
Yeah, very good. So we have to be conscientious of how we move about in this world, because again, as we mentioned before, you're making a good point. It would just prayer to invoke the Lord's mercy. Just like Arjuna, he got the mercy from Krishna. Why? Because he turned towards him in desperation. He admitted his weakness, he admitted his ignorance, and he decided to surrender to Krishna. So that's when Krishna gave him mercy in the form of transcendental knowledge. It wasn't as if Arjuna, you can imagine Arjuna if he was, he's really struggling, coming to terms with like what he has to do. But because of false ego, he doesn't want to let Krishna know. He refuses, he's kind of making out that everything's all right. Like Krishna may say to him, "Are you sure, Arjuna, everything's all right? Because you look a bit disturbed." And Arjuna says, "Yeah, it's all right." But really, he's having an internal, he's having a breakdown. So in that same way, in a very good point you're bringing out, that again, it kind of, you summarized perhaps very nicely what we've been describing, that when we see this ocean of material nescience, we should feel ourselves very small and turn towards Krishna. And if we have that humility and we turn towards Krishna, Radha and Krishna will actually give us their mercy. Yeah. But if we think we've got everything under control, and we are, we think, we're proud, then we won't get Krishna's mercy.
And also, Prabhu, I think
yes.
Only Krishna Bhakti can enter into a pure heart, because if we have arrogance, if we have have this controlling nature, Krishna Bhakti cannot enter there.
Yeah. Also, Nitai Mata mentioned that early on, this Aishvarya Bhav, this controlling Bhava. Yeah. All right. So some very, very good points. Let's pause there. It's 7:00. It's just gone 7. So thank you, everyone. We covered a couple of verses today, and we'll pick it up tomorrow, carrying on with text 37. So just remember, it's the original link. I've just extended the days on it, so you should be able to get through. And if you know anyone who couldn't get through this evening, if you could share that information with them. Okay. All right. So I feel like we could go on more, but let's stop here, and we'll continue tomorrow. So please join us tomorrow for another hour discussion on Bhagavad Gita. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Yeah,
Oh,
thank
the
you, Prabhu, so
Premanandi,
much.
Haribol, Hare
Hari Hari
Krishna, Hare
Bol.
Krishna,
Bol,
Krishna
Hari
Krishna,
Bol,
Hare Hare,
Mahaprabhu
Hare
ki
Ram,
jai.
Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare
Ram Ram, Hari Hari.
Hare. Hare